Hello everybody, my name's Jim Parkyn and I will be your model making instructor for the next half hour or so. So yesterday you may have seen my chat with Abby in the penguin enclosure talking about penguins, and here we are today ready to make our very own plasticine penguin. So here we have my example of a beautiful Humboldt penguin. Better say that right in the first place. So it's a Humboldt penguin, exactly the same species as you have at Harewood House. So we're making a celebratory penguin for the 50th anniversary. So we've got black for the black bits, white for the white bits, some pink for around the beak, and some grey there as well in case we need it. I have a pencil, a couple of sculpting tools, but you could use cocktail sticks, and we have cocktail sticks there just in case I need them as well. So we're ready to go. So oddly, you would think I would go for a black bit of clay, but I'm going to start with the white and build the entire penguin in white clay, which seems counterintuitive, but I think it's better to put the black markings on afterwards, and it's easier to keep it clean that way as well. So I'm going to take, I think, 1.5 strips, I think. So I have one here. I'm going to roughly tear this one in half. Not done a great job of that. And then I've got half a strip if I need it for anything else, so I can put it on for the patterning and that kind of thing. So I think that looks pretty good, to be honest. So the key with using modelling clay or plasticine is to get it as warm as you can. Now you could do this in Play-Doh, you could do this in salt dough, or if you've got air drying clay, that would work brilliantly as well. You might want to use icing. Icing is absolutely fantastic. So if you buy like royal icing, you can buy it in packs, you can buy it ready mixed in lots of different colours. Obviously we're only interested in black and white, maybe a bit of pink for this one. And you could make grey yourself. If you haven't got grey modelling clay as well, you could do this. You can actually just mix black and white together, and that would be absolutely fine to make a grey colour as well. So what I'm going to do is just warm up my clay, get it nice and warm. The warmer the clay is, the softer it gets and easier this is going to be to work with. And I've kind of got a kind of sausage shape to start off with. That's not a bad place to start. Or you could start with an egg, and that might be even better. So what I'm going to do is just round off the bottom of that shape. So we've got a kind of elongated egg shape. And you want to get it kind of smooth if you can. First of all, I'm going to pinch out at the bottom of the clay a tail, because they do have a bit of a tail, as you can see on here. Also, it acts as a good sturdy point for them to rest on as well, so we don't have to worry too much about balance, which is an important thing to worry about. So, teasing out a tail, and we can squash this out. So say the softer you've got the clay, the easier this is to work with. And then I'm going to pull out the tops of the legs, actually. There we go, there's one and there's another. So just pulling out shapes. You can see already we've got something interesting happening. So I'm going to make the tops of the legs slightly shorter than the tail, because once we've added the feet, it'll then be able to stand quite happily. Now what I'm going to do is start to pull out these shapes. So I'm going to pull out the head of my penguin. So they have a bit of a back to them, they have a little bit of a hunch on the back. But start to pull it up. Can you see what's happening there? Look, I'm pulling up the clay, and I'm also going to put my thumb in there to make a little bit of a chest, because they have got a chest as well. And then I'm going to pull the clay over like so into a kind of round end, and trying to make it as symmetrical as you can. Now we're saying at Aardman Animations, and that's to keep things funny and thummy, so we can keep this nice and thumbprinty, fingerprinty, because it is made of modelling clay, and we're not going to worry too much about that. That's absolutely fine. I'm thinking that's looking pretty penguiny already. Now obviously you can look online, have a look at the Harewood House website and have a look at their bird collection photos, or if you do a Google search for, or whatever your search engine of choice is, for a penguin, for a Humboldt penguin that is, then you'll find some good pictures on there. There's lots of good reference. But I actually took pictures from the from penguins at Harewood House, so that was great. And also I took some when I visited, so I had a little bit of reference. Now this isn't a particular penguin. It's not a personality exclusive. This is just a nice penguin shape So I think that's not too bad. So I'm just going to pull those legs back a little bit, give it a bit more of a tummy. But I don't think that's bad actually. There we go. So that's going to give you what we're trying to create at the moment. Nice sturdy legs and a good tail, and then a nice head like that as well. Okay, so I'm quite happy with the shapes so far. So what I'm going to do next is start working on the black clay. So I'm going to make some feet. So I'm going to take off, well, let's split this in half and see how we go. We won't need a lot. I'd say a couple of centimetres long piece of clay and then another for the feet. So we're going to take these one at a time and squash them up. Now you could use, sometimes you might want to give your hands a wipe. Maybe use some environmentally friendly wet wipes, or just go to the sink in cold water and some soap, and that will get the clay off very easily. Essentially the clay is made of Vaseline and plaster, so it's not too bad, not too sticky, but it can get a bit messy with the black pigment. So what I've done is rolled a ball. I'll do that again just to show you. Rolled a ball, and then I'm going to squash it flat with my thumb and finger to a kind of disc shape. I'm then going to pinch it on one end, and this will make the back of the foot. I'm also going to push that up a little bit, like so. So we're going to have the top of the foot, and then I'm going to flatten this out a little bit more, and I'm then going to put, whoops, my penguin's fallen over. Let's leave you over here out the way. You can have a feed on the pink plasticine if you want to. I'm going to push my fingers in there like so, and make the toes, or the start of the toes. Now, as I say, you can use sculpting tools. I like to use my fingers as much as possible, but they do come in handy at different stages, and this is probably one of them. Now, if you have like a paintbrush, something like that, now this is rather like the end of a paintbrush. What you can do then is start to push the end of the paintbrush, or a pencil even, and push around and make the flippery bits inset a little bit. You can soften that with your fingers as well. And we're making 3 toes, so we're making 2 triangles that will sit inside the flippers, and that will give the edge to the toes as well. Now I've gone for black for this, and you can see on there, you might be able to see that actually there's some pink on the feet. Often they have pink on the feet as well, and you could put some claws on if you wanted to. They have got nails or claws to help them obviously scrabble around on rocks, and they're a great paddle shape, so you can see they're perfectly designed for cutting through the water. Not quite so acrobatic on land, but they're a nice sturdy foot. So there's one. So I'm going to make a second one to go with it. We need 2 feet for our penguin. So again, start with a ball and squash the clay, and then make a heel and bend that up to make the top of the leg, or the top of the foot, where it's going to meet that piece there. And then I'm going to flatten this out a little bit more. If it does crack, don't worry, you can just smooth that over. And then I'm going to get my fingers in there and start to pull out 3 points, like so, to make the flippers. Try and make your feet the same size as well, that's always good. So it isn't too far off. By the time I've finished pushing it around, I think it'll be just about spot on. And again, I'm going to use a sculpting tool. But as I say, you could use a pencil or a paintbrush handle. You've got some thin paintbrushes for watercolours or poster paints, then use those as well as sculpting tools. And I'm just pushing in. See how I'm just depressing the clay and just softening those edges, so we've got some toes appearing. So 2 triangles, so you've got a central toe and then 2 outer toes, like that. Now I'm not going to worry about the pink on this one, I'm going to show you the basics, and then if you want to go in and artwork your penguin, then you can certainly do that. And you might have a favourite penguin at Harewood House, in which case I would think about that one. Have a look at the picture of your, you might take a picture of your favourite penguin, then take a photo and look at their markings. Now all the markings are individual, some have got speckles, some have got different bands and different masks on their faces as well. I'm thinking that's looking pretty good so far. So I'm going to put that down to one side, and I'm going to take a cocktail stick. Now we're going to need this. Now you could use like kebab sticks, like little skewers, something like that, and I'm going to put them in to, well actually, do you know what, I'm going to put them into the body. So the ends of these bits of leg, we're going to put in 2 sticks, one in either leg, and leave a little bit poking out, like so. That's just going to help pin on the feet. So we're going to pop one on each side. If you've made a left and a right foot, then that's good. There we go, there's one, and there's the other. Now you can bend those to the right shape, and you can blend them in as well. I'm going to leave them like this for the moment, just to move things along a little bit. So we're going to make some wings. So I'm going to probably use a very similar amount that I did for the feet. And again, tear off these 2 bits, hopefully they're the same size. And we're going to make these nice flipper shapes. So I'm going to move the rest of the clay to one side. So I would start with rolling up the clay, and you'll notice the black is a little bit firmer. So you might have noticed that with the feet already. And I'm going to make a kind of banana shape, like so. And then I'm going to flatten it and make these nice flippers. Now you can have a good look online on pictures as well to see what the shapes of the wings are really like. This is a good starting point. So if you start with a banana, and a lot of good things start with a banana, and then if you take one end of the banana and push it around like so, that is the kind of shape we want for our wings. So this bit here is actually going to attach on the side. Now you make them nice and thin and not too big, because they're not very proportionate. They're perfect. Well, they are the perfect size for swimming through water, but obviously they're not big enough for flight. There we go. It's a creaky chair I'm sitting on. So there's one, and we need to make another one. So make sure you make a left and a right wing. You can always turn them over if you find that you've made 2 lefts or 2 rights. And again, we're making a banana shape, and then we're going to squash it flat. Not too thin, like so. And then you're going to take the end of the banana like that on the arc and just bend it slightly the other way, and that gives a little bit of a shoulder to it, and then you can flatten that bit out. Now what you can do, and what is quite nice to do, if you're feeling adventurous, I will show you actually, is take a little bit of white, so I don't think we're going to need much more of that. And what you can do is make a similar shape to this, but much smaller and thinner when you start off with. So you want it actually not too much smaller, but you want to sit it on the inside. Often penguins will have a white underside of the wing, so when they're swimming, can't really be seen so much from above. So they have white bellies, they're black backs, so they actually can't be seen so easily from above the water. And if things are underneath the water looking up, then rather like a shark actually, it's kind of similar thing, that they're not so easily seen from their silhouette as well. So the fish don't avoid them. As I say, the things like anchovies, small fish. And we learnt today that penguins at Harewood are fed on sprats, which are just a larger version of fish like an anchovy, really. There we go. And hopefully yours is a bit clearer than mine, but penguins do tend to get a little bit grubby. So, you know, we're just mimicking nature there. So I'm going to do that again on this one. So I have a matching pair of wings. And you just need a little bit. I've probably taken far too much there. I forgot to mention actually, you might want a little bit of brown also for the eyes. So I'm going to have a rummage in my clay cave in a little bit as we get to the eyes, and I'll worry about that then. So again, I'm just going to mimic that wing shape, but a bit smaller, like so, and lay that on top. So make that as thin as you can, really nice and thin. So now I need to make sure I'm not making 2 wings the same. So there's a left wing and there's a right wing. So I've done it again, I've done it wrong actually. There you go, I've rescued it. It's okay, if you find that you've done that, you can just make sure you've got the right one, a left and a right one. There we go, it's the perils of live model making. And lay the clay on like so, and push it on, and you can leave it a little bit patterned, that's quite alright. So we have a left and a right. And I'm going to stick those onto the body. So I'm going to move my penguin around a little bit, work out where I want the flippers to go, and I'm going to put them there. So I'm going to push on to one side, and I'm going to spread that clay around. So what this is doing, if you can see that, look, this is massively increasing the surface area that it's sticking to, and that way if you've got the wings up you can see the insides as well. So I think that looks rather nice. I'm going to leave it like that for the moment. So I'm going to put the other one on the other side and make sure that's stuck on nicely as well. And again, you can make the black meet up if you like on the back. So we're flattening that out and just pushing it on and making sure it's really well attached. There we go. Lovely. So I'm just going to tidy that little bit out there. So the next thing we can do is, now we've got wings, we can add a beak. I think is a good place to go. So I'm going to take a small piece of black clay and roll it up, and I'm going to make a kind of, well, a beak shape. So I'm going to start with a sausage like so, and then I'm going to pinch out, slightly flatten it, not too much, and then pinch it into the end of the beak shape like so, and keep one end quite round like that. And you can pin that on, so you could use a cocktail stick if you wish. I might use a little bit of stick, don't want the beak coming off, so you just need a little bit. Now my cocktail sticks are a bit thin, but they should be okay. There we go. I'll put that in and pop that on the front of the face. So it's starting to look a bit more like a penguin. If you're not happy with it one way, you can turn it around the other way. I think that's a better shape already actually. And start to pinch that around. Now we don't want to blend that shape in because we want to keep it nice and separate. So there is a separation between the black and the white. There we go. So what I'll do now is put some nostrils on. Now you can add grey and you can add some pink on there as well. So I'm just going to put the nostrils in at the moment and the split in the beak where the top of the half of the beak and the bottom half of the beak. So I'm going to use this cocktail stick would do this beautifully as well. There we go. So I'm going to do that on this side as well. And I might, if we have time, I might put some colour on the beak in a bit as well. So you can put some nostrils on either side as well. So I might cover this up a minute, again in a minute when I put some more colour on. But what I want to do is get the other bits of colour on first to show you. There we go. So I'm going to take some more black now, and I'm going to take two similar sized pieces. So about the pea-sized ball of clay, and I'm going to take each one and I'm going to squash it, and then I'm going to mimic this piece here. So you can see along the cheek where the eye goes. So I'm going to make a kind of egg shape. It's probably a good way to describe it. And then I'm going to lay that, so you make that thin as you dare, thin as you can, and lay that on the front of our penguin's face. Now if I turn him around, you can see it runs underneath as well. So we can put little patches of clay on there and work it on. So I'm going to push that onto the front of the face, and you can use a sculpting tool if you like. As I say, a paintbrush handle would do this very well. So that's going to build up around the beak. So that's on one side, and we're going to do the same on the other. So it's all about the patterning really. So make another egg shape, really nice and thin, so it doesn't stick out too much. And you're going to put that on the side like so. And again, you can push that on, make that look nice and tidy. Try and make it kind of symmetrical if you can, like so. And then what you can do is start to push with your fingers some clay of that black underneath the chin as well. You might need to add another little piece under there, so I'm going to take a tiny piece of clay and do that. So it's looking a little peculiar at the moment, but it will come together. And then we're going to add a bit of pink in a bit on there to make that around there. Or you could just leave it black. So sometimes You can go a bit more cartoony and a bit more simplistic, and that will look brilliant as well. So there we have a bit where our eyes are going to go, and I'm going to add some more clay now. So what I'm going to do is do this bit here along the top. So I'm going to make a ball of clay first of all. In fact, I'm going to make a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make a carrot shape. So when we make models in my community clay time, we often make things out of carrot shapes. So make a carrot, and then you're going to flatten it, and again, go as thin as you dare. Really get in there, flatten it like that, like you've really squashed it. And I'm going to put that on like so, and push that down the back. So it's going to come down his back, and it's going to join up with this. And you can drag the clay around, look, as well. See what I'm doing here, look? It's really spreading around. And again, you can tidy it up and just push it on and make sure it's nicely attached. And obviously you can spend a bit more time doing it than I am, but you can see it doesn't take a lot. And then you can start to push that clay around and smooth that in. There we go. Looking pretty good, I think. So we're really starting to see it look like a penguin. So I'm going to do the same on this side. I want those bits to join up and then smooth it over. You do get some mottling as well, so you get bits where it's grey, and you get little bits. They're not perfectly symmetrical. So there we go. I think that's looking pretty good and penguin-y though. So what I'm going to do now is add a larger piece on the back. So again, I'm going to go much bigger this time. So a piece about the size of a good sized marble or a Malteser. And I'm going to make another carrot shape like so. And I'm going to really flatten this one out so you can see what I'm doing here. Making a flat carrot. And I'm really going to get this as thin as I dare. And I'm going much broader on the top to make the top of the carrot, and then squashing it down like so. So it looks a bit like a naan bread even, or a bike saddle. And I'm going to lay that black on the back. Now if you can hold it around its black bits, that way you can keep your penguin as clean as possible. But as I say, penguins do get mucky, especially when they're burrowing and stuff like that. So there we go. So you can lay that black clay on like that. So I'm going to squash that on and make sure it's nicely attached, and hopefully that's really nicely going to attach itself now. And again, you can push it around. If you've got a bit of a hunch on the back, then you can push that in, push the clay around, make it work for you. You can use wet wipes to help smooth it over, or if you dip your fingers in cold water, that works really well. What I'm doing also with the black is bring it over the top of that white bit of the tail, and then you can kind of pinch that around a little bit as well. And that will also lengthen the tail, so your penguin will stand particularly well. So I'm just going to tidy up a little bit around the face there. It's not too bad. There we go. And as I say, I think that's looking pretty penguin-y, but we need that bit on the front, that nice band of colour, or black rather anyway, that nice black band. So I'm going to take a small piece of clay and I'm going to make it into a kind of arc shape. And again, you could look at a penguin for reference, look at a picture. If you've got your favourite penguin at Harewood House, this is a good way of doing it. Make your favourite one. So I've made a kind of moustache shape, like that nice thin moustache. And what I'm going to do is lay that on the chest, like so, and then push that in, and then I'm going to push that around so it sits, kind of meets up with the wing. So I'm going to adjust this one on this side and get it into the right position, somewhere I'm happy with, and then you can push that clay on. Now obviously you can spend a bit more time than I am doing this, but this is just to show you how to do it, and then you can tidy it up afterwards. But I think that's looking pretty good, to be honest. Rather liking this one. And then you can put on tiny balls of black clay, so you can take little specks of clay and pop them on like this. I'm going to put a couple on for you to see. You can make some bigger, some smaller. So they have these little specks and splodges. And so I'm going to put a large one down there on the tummy. And if you press them on and then give them a bit of a pull down or up, that'll make some nice speckles. And you can really go to town with this. You could put lots on or just a few. So I think that is probably, let's use this little bit up as well, so we don't want to waste any clay. There's another one. I've got dancing feet, this one. And I'm going to use that. That's probably enough for now. As I say, if you want to add more, go for it. There we go. I think that looks quite nice though, doesn't it? Excellent. And I can finish off smoothing that in later. So what I'm going to do now is take a little bit of pink. Now this might be a good time for you to give your hands a good wipe, or if you don't have anything to hand, then you can always take a little bit of clay and roll it in your fingers, and that will take some of the black off as well. So you can see it gets quite mucky. So if you roll that in your hands, that will pick up a lot of the other colour and make it slightly less grubby looking. I'm not going to worry too much. So what I'm going to do is make a little bit of pink on there. So in fact, a young penguin, when they start to get their adult feathers in, look a bit more like this actually. They're a little bit more grey and black, not that brilliant black and white. So I'm going to take that and move that to one side. I'll use that later on. I can mix that with some other colours and use it for some pictures later on, or so other models. So what I'm going to do is make a little teardrop shape or an apple pip shape. In fact, once I've made that, look, if I pull it out a little bit, I've made it almost into a spoon shape, and I'm going to put the pink onto the side of the face and then push it on like that. Now what you can do is take a sculpting tool and then spread some around. Because quite often they are pink around the beak, so that's their skin colour, around the eyes. That often blends in onto the beak as well. So you can almost paint with your plasticine as well, or modelling clay. So it doesn't matter what you use. So if your clay is very soft, you might want to use more in the way of cocktail sticks. But there we go, I think that's looking pretty good. And I'll do the same on the other side. So try and make it as symmetrical as you can. There we go. And my creaky chair. And I've taken another little apple pip sized piece of clay, and I'm just pulling it out a little bit like that. Make a kind of spoon shape or keyhole shape. I'll put that over here. Now you might find it's a little bit on the long side, in which case you can always take a little bit off, or you can just spread it around as well. So I'm going to keep this on camera and remember what I'm doing. Sometimes when you get lost in what you're doing and you're enjoying the process, it's hard to remember that you're actually doing this for someone else to be seeing. So I do have to remember to keep it on camera. There we go, I think that's looking pretty good. I might thin that out a bit later on. So there we go, looking pretty close to being finished. So we need to take a pencil now, and I'm afraid we're going to poke our penguin in the eye, and I don't recommend you do this otherwise. And make a nice round hole like so. I'll do that on this side. I'll tidy that up later on. It's a bit messy on that side, but I think it's okay. And I'm going to poke our penguin in the eye like that, make a nice socket, and you can round off those shapes like so. Now I'm going to reach across the camera, and I have a little stash of brown plasticine here. So I'm going to take a little bit of brown, and that's literally all I'm going to need. Make two very small balls of clay, brown clay, and add those in. So make very small balls of clay, roll them on your hands and pop them one at a time into your sockets like so. There's one. We'll do the same on the other side like so, and nearly there with the brown. So that's the only thing we need the brown for really. You could go for black, that would be okay. There we go. But I think the brown is a nice little injection of colour in there as well, just to mix it up a little bit. I have a tiny ball of black clay here, which I'm going to cut into, well, tiny bits. Actually, I wouldn't even need all of that, so that is going to be more than big enough to make the pupils for my penguin. So I'm going to take each one in turn, make a little round ball, and then when you press it onto the surface of the eye, it will spread out into a nice round circle. And that's what you want to make a nice pupil. I'm going to do the same again with this on the other side, and then I'm going to repeat this process with an even smaller, minuscule piece of white clay. So I've got loads over here, which I won't need. And I'm literally going to take the tiniest piece imaginable, and I'm going to cut it in half. And I might not even need that. We'll see how we go, see how that looks. So I don't know if the camera can actually see that, but it's the tiniest piece of white clay. And I'm just going to put it offset slightly over the pupil, just off the top of the pupil. It gives a nice little glint in the eye there, a nice shine to the eye. So this one's a little bit smaller. I think will actually look better on the other side. So you need to put those on and choose where the light's coming from. So I think there we go. Obviously it's coming from the sun, so we're going to have those little bits there. There we go. Now you can start to really pattern this in. So you can use the tools to start to push the clay around and add some nice shapes in there, and then flatten it down. You can add a little bit of grey onto the beak as well. I think that'll look rather nice. Like so. So get it really nice and thin and pop that on the bill. And then you can use your fingers to spread it across. You could blend the grey into the pink if you wanted to, like that. And I'm going to leave it black on the ends. So I'll do the same again with this little piece along the other side. Get it nice and flat, really as flat as you can, and then pop that onto the clay, like so. And you might have to uncover the nostril if you've covered it up, or it might be alright. There we go. I think that looks rather splendid. And a finishing touch on the feet is to do the same with some little bits of pink, super thin, make some little flat bits of clay on the of pink. Again, carrot shapes are good for this. So two nice little bits of carrot, pink carrot shape, like so, and then drag them across, and you can really kind of model them in. You can always use a sculpting tool to kind of bring them across as well, like so. So spend some time doing this and enjoy it, because it's a nice thing to be doing. And I'm only going to do it on the one foot, or am I? I don't know, I'm enjoying myself so much I might do it on both. So there we have it. Another toe. Again, you can spend a bit more time than this, but you could be quite painterly with it as well. Spread that around. So you don't really need very much at all. You are literally painting with plasticine, and that's something I do as well. So you can do that as well. So there we go, look. Some nice pink parts of the feet. Now you could blend it all the way up to the legs as well. That would look rather good. You could put some pink onto the parts of the flippers as well. I'm just going to do the other side now, the other foot, just because I've come this far and we're very nearly done. As I say, you can take a bit more time over this and enjoy it. Now I've got lots of other animals that I make, so you can check out my YouTube channel or find me on Instagram. And we've got lots of other animals. You can see I'm surrounded by Queen Victoria, crocodiles, and all sorts of things. Yes, so there are lots more videos on there for you to have a look at. And if you'd like to share your pictures with me, I would absolutely love to see your fabulous plasticine penguins. As I say, do them in salt dough, do them in Play-Doh, do them in icing, air drying clay, whatever you like. So there we have it, our finished penguin. So he's not alone now. So there we have a young friend to go with our other penguin. hopefully you've enjoyed that. Have a go yourselves. Please do share your pictures with us. I'd absolutely love to see it. And thanks so much to the lovely people at Harewood House for inviting me to have a chat with the lovely Abby, one of the keepers at looking after the birds there at Harewood House. And thanks to the team for doing this and posting this. So as soon as we can get out and we're free, I shall be heading up to Harewood House and coming to see the penguins in person again. Enjoy and do share your penguin pics with us.